Strategy and simulation games are undoubtedly my guilty pleasure. Now, if you've ever watched my channel before, you'll know that I usually look for games with a strong story-based experience. However, every now and then, I just love to kick back, relax, and unwind with a really involving simulation or strategy experience. When the opportunity came along to review Port Royale 4 on the PS4, I jumped at the chance. So at this point, I just want to say a big thanks to Kalypso Media for providing me with a reviewer's code so that I could make this video. Hello everybody, I'm Roy McCoy and welcome to my latest 5-step review. And this is where I take a game and review it in 5 different stages. So step 1 today will be what it is. So we'll be summarising it, putting it in a nutshell. What is Port Royale 4? Section 2 will be the biggest section, and it will be looking at the game mechanics. So we'll be talking about the trading, the battle, the missions, and the city building that this game offers. I'll also be offering some points of view of things that I think would have improved the experience, and highlighting the things that I loved. Section 3 this time will be very short, but it will be looking at the story and the setting of the experience. That will be before we move on to number 4, which will be the audio and visuals, before rounding it up in a summary and conclusion and answering that all-important question, should you buy this game? Please remember to throw this video a like as it really helps my channel to grow. And if you enjoy these 5-step reviews or other videos such as my What Happened To series, where we take a game and or series from history that has seemingly disappeared, for example Suikoden, and ask those all-important questions, what was it? What happened to it, and will we ever see it again? So if these kind of videos sound like something you'd be interested in, please consider subscribing. But without any further ado, let's move on to step 1 of my Port Royale 4 PS4 review. So, what is it? Quite simply put, Port Royale 4 is a financial strategy and simulation game. It's all set during the colonial era in the Caribbean, or the Caribbean to my American friends. So all the usual culprits are there, like the English, the Dutch, the French, and the Spanish, all vying for trading control. There's also some pirates, which really excited me when I heard about that. The execution, however, was not what I was hoping for. Now, what's really interesting about Port Royale 4 is that it takes some of the aspects that are commonly overlooked or not expanded on deeply in other simulation games, for example the trading and the financial aspects. There's also elements of city building and side quests that are given to you sometimes by a viceroy, which tends to be more trading missions, or you're looking for treasure maps or rescuing people every now and then with these random quests that pop up on the map. However, most of this game is structured around setting up trade routes and trading. So to summarise step 1, what is it? It's a strategy and simulation game focused on the finances, set in the colonial era in the Caribbean, with a huge focus on trading, and there's some battle mechanics, set missions, and city building. So, now let's talk about the game mechanics. So, first up, there is a really good and in-depth tutorial. It will take you a fair few minutes to complete all of the stages of the tutorial, but I feel that it sets you up really well to get the most out of this game. And also, when you've completed that, there is a little reward at the end. Other than the tutorial, there's a campaign and sandbox mode. In the campaign mode, you have the option of playing as one of the 4 nations. You can play as Spain, England, the Dutch, or the French. Now, being English, I kind of wanted to dive straight in and get on with the English campaign. However, you have to do it in the order that Kalypso has decided to put it in. So before you can play as the English or the Dutch or the French, you have to complete all of the Spanish missions. Now, I did complete all of the campaigns, but the majority of my experience came in the free play mode because I felt like I wanted to play as who I wanted to play as and not be limited by the developer's choice. So that's just a minor little point, but to be honest, it annoyed me. So let's talk about what this game entails. Now, considering this game is a financial simulation game, let's talk about the trading. Basically, what you do is pick up a commodity at one port and take it to another port. You buy it cheap and sell it high. Now, there are certain towns at the start that produce certain products. For example, wheat, or vegetables, or lumber. And there are other towns or cities that need this product. So they may want to turn the grain into beer, or the sugar into rum. So the idea of the game is basically to follow the principles of supply and demand. You can effectively see the abundance and the levels of stock through a 4-bar simplistic system. So basically, if it's 4 bars, if it's full green, they have a lot of it and you can buy it cheap. If they have 3, it's slightly more expensive, but they still have a lot of it. If it's 2 bars, it's a normal level. If it's 1 bar, they're slightly short, but they've got a little supply. And if it's none, they either need it or they don't have any. And you can also tell next to those numbers how much that city or town uses. So it's very simplistic. You look for places with 4 green bars, you buy up as much as you can, you sail somewhere else, and you sell it on. And actually, I quite enjoyed this. This was the part that, yes, it's simplistic, but it was enjoyable at first. The problem was it soon got repetitive. Sail somewhere, pick something up, deliver it. Sail somewhere, pick something up, deliver it. Sail somewhere. It went over and over and over again. Now, strangely enough, at this point, I need to say that I kept playing this game. I found something quite soothing about the repetitive nature of it, but it did become a little bit tedious after a while. That coupled with the fact that you can create trade routes. You open a menu, you press create trade route, you select a bunch of towns, and you select which commodities you'd like to buy in one place and sell in another. However, just in case that's too taxing for you, the developer has included an automate button, which basically means you can press the button and the trade route's purchases and sales are automatically selected. So you effectively create trade route, select towns, press a button, and off you go. So what is the impact of that? Well, quite simply, as soon as your trade route starts, your money starts clocking up. And it really actually makes any sense of urgency regarding finances a little bit redundant, because you know that whatever you do in that game, you're going to be earning money. So not only is the system quite simplistic, the automating system makes this game even more repetitive, because effectively it releases you from having to do any kind of work to get any kind of gain. That said, there are some other aspects, and I mentioned earlier you get a Viceroy. Now, the Viceroy occasionally gives you missions, but these also revolve around trade. Now, I shouldn't really be surprised considering the fact that this is a trading simulation. It was merely, oh, the French have an abundance of wheat. Go and get their wheat and sell it to our towns. Or, we have an abundance of rum. Sell it to the Dutch. And if you do complete these little missions for the Viceroy, you get something called fame points. Now, fame points can be used to unlock certain aspects of the game, for example, new ships and new buildings to be built in the town and city building aspects. More on that soon. And they can also be used to purchase certain types of ships. Warships. Yes, there's warships. Brilliant, I thought. Maybe trading isn't the highlight. However, before you can get on your first warship, you need to get a captain. And to get a captain, you need fame points. You're jumping through hoops over and over again, but not in a challenging way. It's just more like you've got to grind it out and wait for it to happen. So that's the trading aspect of the game. I just felt it was really shallow and not as enjoyable. What I think would have made it better is if there were rival companies like the East India Company or the West India Company, something like this, and you could take over those companies, or you could assassinate people, or you could commit espionage and get ideas or ransack certain towns to stop their production lines. However, it just seems like there's so many simplistic elements in this game and certain quality of life features or certain additions to the game that would have made it better. There was very little in the world of politics in this game, and I just think a diplomacy aspect would have added such another level to this game. So let's move on to the battles, and this is something I was really looking forward to. And oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Now the battles are split into 2 parts. First of all, you can have these kind of crappy turn-based battles. They're not great. You move your ship around with a limited number of turns, you fire your portside cannons, and then you fire your broadside if that's the right one, if you can. And you try and sink the opponent's ships. But it's all a bit superficial. It felt a bit like an app game and not like a full-priced PS4 game. That's how it felt at this point. And there was another aspect to it. You had Captain's Tactics, which presumably was there to add a few more options during the battle, but it didn't really feel like it expanded those turn-based battles any more than that. But I really think it would have been a lot better with a real-time element. Now, I mentioned there's 2 parts to your kind of warring, battling thing. And the other one is besieging a city. Now, when you go to war with a rival power, you have to purchase permission from your viceroy to go to war as well. But when you do that, you can sink your opponent's ships, which, for the record, you don't have to go through the turn-based rigmarole every time. There's an automate feature. Of course there is. But you can also besiege the opponent's cities or towns and take them over or just ransack them. How do you do this? Well, you just literally click on them and your boat sails there, and then there's a kind of timer that ticks down. And that's it. That was really disappointing. And yet again, this is another aspect of the game that could have been massively improved. And it just felt like it was missing certain things. I felt that the trading and the automation of the trading made the game too simplistic. And after that, there wasn't really that much to get your teeth into. Now, I've got to say at this point, I did keep coming back to it. And I did keep playing it. So somewhere underneath this, there is an entertaining game. But I think you can guess where my review is heading in terms of score. Okay, let's talk about those missions. Now, the Viceroy, as I said, gives you those strange missions that are just more trading missions. Or occasionally, you get the opportunity to rescue someone. Or do some other kind of strange task. And it usually rewards you with a little piece of a map. A treasure map where you can find a statue. So yet again, that aspect of the game, I was really thinking like, oh, maybe this is going to be something exciting, but it didn't play out yet again. It was just a little bit underdeveloped. Now, let's move on to my favourite aspect of the game mechanics, and that is the city building. You can buy a building permit and upgrade your city, buying new kind of factories or new farms to create new products, and at least that aspect is quite interesting. But again, if you want a city building game, play Tropico, set in the tropics. Or play City Skyline, because this just doesn't go that deep into it. And that is my takeaway from it. It doesn't feel like you just click on it and it builds it automatically. The goods get supplied, usually by other merchants. You can supply them yourselves. And there you go. You've built your town up. You've got new facilities. And what do you know? That's the city building aspect. There are certain buildings you can unlock through those like Viceroy missions, those fame points, like churches and breweries and things like this. But I have to say, yet again, this was another aspect of it that was underdeveloped. The controls worked really well. They worked surprisingly well on the PlayStation. I was expecting maybe there was going to be an issue there, but it felt decent there. And the menu structures, yeah, they were okay. It wasn't particularly taxing in any way, shape or form. I didn't find myself getting lost. So all in all, it worked well on a PlayStation. Now, let's move on to the story. And I promised you at the start this was going to be a short section. So as I said, it's set during the colonial era in the Caribbean. And every now and then there are certain real-life events, especially in the free play section, that pop up. For example, the first time somebody wrote about a Ferris wheel or something like that. I was like, oh, this is cool. But then when you play it a second or third time in free play mode, you see that the same information pops up at the same time. Now, I know this is to recreate real-life historical events, but it would have been nice if they didn't all happen every time. Also, it kind of felt like the wars with the rival powers only happened to coincide with real-life events. So that really brings us to the end of the story. There wasn't really that much story about it. So let's move on to the audio and visual of the game. Now the music, I really enjoyed the in-game music. I felt that it really set the scene. One thing that I didn't enjoy was the voiceovers. Now this was because the voice acting was a little bit clunky. But the thing I didn't like is if you look at the mouths moving, they don't move at the right time, which really irritates me. But it just was a little bit off-putting to see their mouth moving at the wrong time, like a badly dubbed film. Now, the graphics. The menus are a little bit bland, but they're okay. They kind of look like parchment. And the map system, it's pretty cool. It looks pretty good. I mean, there's nothing really that can go wrong with a plain top-down map of the Caribbean. The colours are vivid, the colours are bright, and I really enjoyed that. One thing I also enjoyed, that I probably should have mentioned during the game mechanics phase, is you can also plot your route of your ship based on the wind, demonstrated by arrows going round and round. So if you sail against the wind, you'll be slower, and if you sail with the wind, you'll be quicker, which is also quite simplistic. And not being a sailor, I'm not going to criticize it because I don't know if that's how easy it is, but I think there is a reason that people get lost in the Bermuda Triangle. So all in all, it looks and sounds pretty good. There's not much you can go wrong with this game in terms of looks. When you zoom in a little bit close, yeah, it's not as great. But all in all, I like the look and feel of the game. So now let's bring it into the conclusion phase. Is this game worth buying? And I'm going to say there is a good game under here somewhere, but it's just a little bit repetitive, simplistic, and underdeveloped. Those words are coming back again. You had a simplistic trading system that didn't really go as deep as it could have been. There were some missing features, I felt, like conspiracies and espionage. The battles, again. The best thing about the battles is that you could just press a button and they were automated, because it just felt like it was nothing fresh. The missions were more trading usually. The story was a little bit non-existent, but then I didn't really expect a deep and involving story from playing Port Royale 4. However, the good parts for me were the city building. I quite enjoyed that. I mean, it was simplistic, but at least it was something entertaining and something to aim for. And also the look and sound of the game, particularly focusing on the music. So, what score is this going to get out of 10? For me, It's a middle of the road, it's a 6, basically. It's a 6 out of 10. I was edging towards a 5.5, but I'm going to go with a straight 6. And that's because while I said that it does nothing special or nothing new and it's nothing deep and involving, I did keep playing it and I did find myself spending some serious hours here. But that was more with the hope of it getting better and deeper as the game went on, and sadly it just didn't deliver for me. So as I said, this is a 6 out of 10, and to be honest, I don't think it's worth buying at full price. If you're gonna buy it, if you do want a financial or trading simulator set in the Caribbean, yeah, go for this. Or check out one of the earlier ones, Port Royale 3 or 2. They seemed hugely successful. It isn't a bad game, it's just a little bit underdeveloped and needed a little bit more work put into it. A few more fresh ideas, a little bit of innovation. But that brings us to the end of today's review, the 5-step review. I hope you enjoyed that. Let me know if there's a game coming out soon that you would like me to review. But on that note, this is Roy McCoy, out.